Hi, this is Bajana Barker. This is the second part of my oral presentation, identifying at-youth risk, infants and toddlers, focusing on disabilities for the class for human behavior and social environment for Professor Walsh. Macrosystem. Within the at-risk population of infants and toddlers, this would include their more immediate surroundings. Macrosystem would include mother, infant, toddler, or father, infant, toddler. It may also include daycare caregivers, infants, toddlers, preschoolers, teachers, toddlers, and other similar daily interactions of an infant and/or toddler experience. Mesosystem. In regards to toddlers, this system would be more about how different mesosystems interact with each other. For example, if a toddler has a rough day at school, or at preschool, I should say, daycare, he or she may come home and their caregiver is in a bad mood or upset about something that has happened to them at preschool, thus showing how the macrosystem and the teacher-toddler interact with the home microsystem of mother-toddler ecosystem. Although an at-risk population may not be directly involved in the system at this level, it still affects their other systems. This level of system involves more social settings in which things happen that can indirectly involve at-risk populations. For example, if a school closes due to financial issues, the infant or toddler was not actively involved in the decision, but it still affects them, putting their services at risk. Macrosystem. This level involves what they discussed earlier. It includes all the ways in which cultures affects other levels of person involvement and eventually how the individual develops. This level would also include laws that would affect infants and toddlers, such as regulations of welfare programs, early intervention programs, and other services-based organizations. Erikson's theory of psychosocial development. Erik Erikson developed his theory of psychosocial development in 1950. It argues that all individuals process through 8 stages of development over the course of their lifetime. For the purpose of this presentation, we will only discuss the first 2 stages that pertain primarily to our at-risk populations of infants and toddlers. Stage 1. Trust versus mistrust. In this first stage, the infant is learning to trust others, primarily their caregivers. They realize that the caregivers will provide for them with all their needs, like food, shelter, and love. If a child learns that these needs may not be met by their caregivers, they then learn to mistrust others, which will carry on throughout many of the subsequent stages of development. Early intervention is crucial during the stages with anyone's child, but especially with an infant with a disability. In many instances, interventions can help to prevent a disability from progressing further simply by providing services at an early age. Stage 2. Autonomy versus shame and doubt. It is during this stage when an infant becomes a toddler and is learning crucial processes such as dressing, feeding themselves, and discovering their independence. The more a child is able to learn to do independently during the stage, the more self-confidence they will develop. If they are not encouraged to explore their abilities or how they get around their disability, they may develop self-doubt, which will hinder their development. Strengths perspective. Now we've seen many of the barriers to providing services for disabled infants and toddlers. Let's briefly focus a little on how we can overcome these barriers. The strengths perspective is widely used by social workers and is based on the assumption that everyone has the capacity for growth, change, and adaptation. Instead of leading the person to believe that their problems are as a result of something they did wrong, or that it is their fault, the strengths perspective builds the focus and confidence of the individual by focusing on the individual's skills, goals, talents, and abilities. It is a great way to get the family directly involved in their child's services and development. Showing the family that in spite of the cultural issues, which may be initially blocked by the ability to provide services, their skills and strengths may be utilized to help their child develop their own skills. While every situation is unique and every individual's disability and how it affects the family is also unique, it is imperative that the social worker be able to assess any risks within the home to the infant and toddler population, and it is equally important to be able to provide a service plan which is comprehensive and is strength-oriented, which will allow the family to become instrumental in carrying out services and service plan to help them to have sense of accomplishment. Since these nearly an infinite number of people and possible differences between cultural, whether it's language, tradition, religion, or any other cultural-based differences, observing the family in the home is the best way in determining the actual barriers presented in the search for appropriate services. Leaving your own belief system at the door will help ensure that you are able to provide a complete, unbiased, non-judgment approach to helping these infants and toddlers, as well as the older population at risk. Once you are able to assess where the barriers to the services provisions are, as well as where the actual services are needed, you can work with the family, making sure that you are involving them in the resolutions. There can have such a sense of accomplishments, knowing that they are the ones who overcame their difficulties, and this approach itself can help in overcoming some cultural barriers. In closing, remember that no matter what the solution is, no matter the disability or the barrier, everyone has the right to services that will help them obtain health, safety, and independence. It is our job as social workers to help families find what is available, what is needed to be done, and to guide them through the process. Social workers can help bridge the gap between cultures and help families to understand that they are not alone. Please note I will be posting 2 videos that I feel are very important for this presentation. Please take a look at them. Thank you very much for the opportunity.